Okay, Bismillah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum, guys. This is a broadcast that I'm doing outside in what looks like the middle of the woods, but isn't. And I was just getting kind of stuffy indoors reading about a particular artist that I've never really either admired or been inspired by, but I thought I'd give her a chance, seeing as though, yet again, as she's always been, Tracey Emin has come into the public eye. She was in a recent exhibition that my sister has been to and was talking to me about. And I thought, okay, well, maybe there's more to it than what I always assumed. Maybe Tracey Emin should be given credit to find out if that's the case. But so far, no luck. Nothing new and nothing incredibly inspiring has come to play. Of the works of Tracey Emin, the halal ones, quote unquote, that can be displayed here include, well, what can you say? There's always something obscene about Tracey Emin. Even when she does quilted letters, she feels the need to throw at least a dozen swear words in there. I mean, here's a tent with all the names of everyone she's ever slept with, including her 2 aborted fetuses. And all the drawings, you know, tend to be of naked, strange gestures of women. And yeah, I guess that is the question to ask of Tracey. Why would you show your bed to the public? Which is essentially what her entire life is about, her entire work as an artist. Tracey Emin is well known for basically turning what should be private into the public and making it basically for public consumption. You know, she's not exactly talentless, even though when you look at Tracey Emin's work, it's an absolute, I mean, one thing, okay, fair enough to her, one thing I did learn from Tracey Emin is that nowadays you really don't have to have any talent to be famous as, or you don't need to, certainly don't need to display any talent to be famous as an artist. And this is a really fair, for any Tracey Emin fans, this is actually a really fair critique of her work, because she herself states that her work is artless art. It's art that displays no particular talent, no particular need for displaying any form of artistry. You know, even when she uses her hand, she makes a hack job of it. Does that mean she has no talent? No, she graduated with a first-class degree from a prominent school of art, and she was part of YBAS, which is the Young British Artists movement in the 80s. And she graduated in her master's from the Royal College of Art, so she's not stupid and completely like not with it. But you know, she made a decision that my artwork isn't the art. I'm the art. That was literally her statement. It's a very new age spiritualist kind of statement, which again has its grounding in the fact that she comes from a background of spiritualists and mysticky sort of grandmother that was a psychic and a medium, hence the inversion of the role of the female in the public space. And you know, it's no coincidence that artists like her that feel the absolute need to make an absolute inversion of what is typical of women's places in society come from a background where matriarchy is in authority is more prevalent than patriarchy. And what kind of cultures are those? Wicca, witchcraft, that kind of stuff. And you know, she makes no light of the fact, no hidden. She's quite open about the fact that that's where she draws a bunch of her inspiration from. Maybe that's why she looks like the way she does. Yeah, really not a fan of Tracey Emin. So you know, how has she done anything new for women and placed them anywhere above anywhere above where they've ever, where they've been prior to her in society, in history. Like, how has she added dignity? How has she added respect? How has she added honor to the role of women in society? I'm at a loss for that, even after reading this book. I mean, all she seems to have done is, and I say seems to because her work is obviously, the reason why she's so famous is because there's two aspects to her work. They are incredibly anti-intellectual. They can be read superficially, and you can feel straight away like you know exactly what she's going on about, because she uses cultural references like the Beatles and pop art, pop culture, everyday television, and a celebration of everyday culture, so that everyday people can relate to her. And that's how she basically reaches stardom status as an artist, even though she is an artist and not a common day celebrity, though she basically intentionally behaves like one. Makes appearances in adverts for airlines and fashion brands like Vivienne Westwood. So she has a dual role about her, where she purposefully plays into the celebrity stereotype and uses that to her advantage to become famous as an artist, and then and allows for the objectification of her role as an artist. So it's not just the objectification of women in the fact that she regularly draws attention to her body, the nude female form, but she also objectifies what a human being is and what the human mind is capable of by giving into mainstream popular culture. And she is the icon of variety and controversy, and in what appears to be the game show of British culture. Like, she parades herself around as as an icon for the Tracey the rebel, the mad girl from Marlow, as she's known. But she makes light of it, so it's something that she actually makes use of, and that's a comment really on our society, which we'll be judged on probably in years to come. Like, how can someone that uses that as their branding strategy become so famous? How can they be so accepted? I mean, one of the things that I was shocked about when I came to England in 1996 was how common it was for boys and girls in my class to just draw pictures of tits and everything all over the place, like on their sketchbooks and on their class books. And this is, we're talking year 4, so what is the average age? 6, 7? And it's no coincidence that the most famous artist in Britain at the time was making similar drawings of profanities all over the place. So it's not exactly like, and this work is exhibited in galleries. So, if you were perplexed as to why British kids in state school, another reason why I don't suggest any of you send your kids to normal school, but invest in homeschooling your children, and why they have such a messed up and more pervasive approach to things that are held sacred or not usually made fun of than most. I mean, yeah, sure, everybody plays kiss chase and whatever, but to draw this kind of stuff on your books and make jokes of it when you're only 6, 7 years old. I mean, it was assumed that it was the fault of pornography. Well, you can attribute that to it now, but it goes further than that. And the fact that it's acceptable in public art galleries and in places that are, of supposed to be of serious intellectual debate, you have images like this as a discourse on art. It's just such a joke. And it's like, no wonder an entire class of people that consider themselves to be serious-minded and they want to contribute something serious to the world absolutely withdrew from the art world and been like, what is going on in that part of the world? Like, messed up or what? Yeah, seriously messed up. And how on earth is it different from the established status quo? I mean, she as a woman makes absolute use of the fact that the art space is gendered, and women artists are looked at differently from a male artist, and she makes an absolute parade of that. Women artists are gendered in the fact that they're more seen as consumers and as decorators. And what is Tracey Emin known for if not her I've Got It All, which was a portrait of her in 2000 of money coming out from between her legs and being the ideal, iconic, guilt-tripped image of a woman that has chosen wealth and a lifestyle of, I've chosen money over family, basically. You know, given birth to my wealth rather than given birth to a child. Given birth to my financial independence. So that was basically the post-feminist apocalyptic image that you can attribute to her, I guess. And her stance on being decorative, the medium she usually employs is quilting and all this, but she inverts it by just being incredibly, well, what I'd say is cliche and incredibly predictable about it. I mean, it looks like something that you'd take to a protest or Glastonbury. So, I mean, what is artistic about that? I have no idea. And the fact that she's stereotyped as being erratic, overwrought, oversexed, impulsive woman rising out of her soiled, unmade bed to make time for a talk show, just goes to show that she really hasn't done anything different with herself or the already established perceptions of women being overly emotional, being overly angst, and especially for the feminists being overly angst, overly emotional. And how has she challenged that stereotype with her work is what I'd like to know. And if you have if you think that I'm making a very blasé and generalistic reading of superficial reading of superficial work, then correct me if I'm wrong. I've really I mean, even the critics Okay, I'm not sure what happened there. Apparently lost connection, but I'll carry on. Not only is she stereotypical of the fact that this is what happens if you film in the woods, a live broadcast, by the way. I might have to do the whole thing again. Hopefully not. So not only is she stereotypical of the role that women play in society, but also the role that the position of emotion in society. She takes advantage of the fact that if you're emotional, you're actually given you can actually have a lot of power, which is the stereotypical power that women have had for centuries. They are the more emotional one, and as you can just of the two genders, and that renders them with a lot of power. They have a broader capacity to show emotion, and society allows that of them. Somehow it's just not okay for a man to cry, but a woman can shout, scream, cry, laugh hysterically, act girlishly, jump around, be playful, be happy. She can display a far broader variety of emotion than a man typically is okay to be able to show in public. So what about that disadvantage of women over men? And the fact that she openly makes game of that, and you know, has a whole slew of sorry stories behind her that she brings out to actually draw her fame. And again, this is how she's a marketing genius. She uses herself as the subject, makes an object out of herself, and she actually just like Oprah Winfrey, or, you know, typical of the Jerry Springer generation, she parades her personal life stories as art. And if anybody knows anything about marketing, that's the best way to sell stuff, because it's the quickest way to get your audience to trust you. So she basically has a canvas or a piece of sculpture where she's talking about everybody she's ever slept with, and you're actually encouraged to go into this piece of work and look under the flaps, and, you know, you already get a sense for how pervasive that is, and how she's actually just doing something that is, it's taboo, and it's basically taking power from something that obviously has power. So she's manipulating the power of storytelling, and there's no fault in that, but I wish she'd tell happier stories. Like I guess you could say she's the reason why she talks about all the stuff she does talk about, abuse, and, you know, it's she was lucky in this, being from a working class feminist background in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, because she was able to have more sorry stories than anybody else, and she took advantage of that in the 90s, which was a time where you had to basically be bad in order to be good enough for the public to give you any attention. That's just the nature of the time that of the 90s and the following years, basically. And it's an era of objection. What else can you say? It's the aesthetics of trauma, and it's a celebration of everyday anguish, which is why when she put a bed as the entry for the Turner Prize, you know, a bed which looked like she just woken up out of it or done a few things in it. It's everyday anguish. It's you know, people don't want to get out of their beds. People lounge about in depression when they're in their bed. And just the idea that, and an unmade bed on top of that, grimy, dirty, filthy. So the idea that the woman is not the homemaker that she actually has always been praised to be, and she can be proud of that, or she should be proud of that. And the idea that a woman, you know, should be proud of the fact that she sleeps alone, and the fact that, I mean, and the fact that she just basically glorifies her everyday anguish. And it's just a celebration of I'm in pain culture. Like, the more pain you have, the more you can guilt people around you to feel sorry for you, and that has power in Western culture. The emo culture literally glorifies people that tend to be like, you should feel sorry for me, and then we wonder why there's so many people walking around choosing depression as opposed to strength. And yeah, depression is a clinical condition for some, and it actually is a clinical thing for some people that needs medical attention, but in more cases than are given credit for, it's more choice of, I want to feel sad. And you just need to look at popular culture, artists like Tracey Emin and countless musicians that have actually made a life for themselves out of the grief, self-proclaimed grief, and dramatic amplification of grief that they've apparently felt in their lives. And that's how they choose to gain people's sympathy and money, sadly enough. It's disempowering. It's a celebration of disempowerment. And she's actually taken advantage of that, like everybody else in her time. So again, what's new about that? And she is the star of her own narrative. Her role is traumatic, and her medium is always narrative about her own life. It's deeply personal, confessional, and private. And you can almost sense the guilt in a lot of it. Like, what is there but guilt against the idea of making money when a woman, when she's purposefully positioning herself in really vulnerable, appearing really vulnerable without clothes, attracting humiliation. And, you know, you just think about the sorts of images that you have of spirituality in the 1500s and contrast them dramatically to when Christianity was removed. And you realize that actually a lot of Western art still carries a lot of guilt for the fact that they don't have that presence of God anymore in their work. And if they were proud of the fact that they don't have God anymore, would they really behave the way they do? Spread eagled in front of the camera, making a show of themselves. Ironically, you know, her work is very ironic, and it's full of derogatory statements to herself. It's full of insults to herself and to her family. You know, she's using profanities all over the place directed at her own personal self and at females in particular. So what else is that except for a mentality of self-deprecation and just you know, not taking yourself seriously, or how, to me, I don't understand how that can possibly mean a good self-image. It's clearly one riddled with guilt and pain. So the fact that she became her art, and you know, the minute she disappears, her work, the minute she appears, rather, her work disappears. She is the work, and she's central to her to her existence as an artist. But that means that she's become a public figure more than an artist. And an interesting saying I read was, who wants to become a poet when you can be the lead singer of a band? You know, fame has its own allure to it, and she fell into that just like she used that to her advantage, which is why she's one of the most famous artists alive nowadays. But as the formula works, the more famous an artist is in the public eye, the less they seem to be in the eyes of serious academic critics. So I mean, fair enough. Like, it maybe the reason why I can't take her seriously also is because she's everywhere. But it's interesting, that inversion between being relatable to the masses and being relatable just to academia. But again, I fail to see how she is anti-establishment. To me, Tracey Emin is the embodiment of establishment. She's negative in her association to wealth. She's negative in her association to women. She's negative in her association to the ideals upheld for women in order to make family life function. She's negative in her association to the ideals of she is actually negative towards women. You know, the fact that she does not live the life of a stereotypical woman, and often berates and makes fun of even the most sacred aspects of a woman's life. For me, that paints her as actually negative towards anyone that wants to be just a normal woman. And again, making women feel uncomfortable about being women. How is that anti-establishment? It is the embodiment of the establishment, and it's actually doing something that is to be orderly in a very disorderly fashion, which is the trend of the last couple of years, ever since order has had to become a lot more subversive in how it instills itself. Ever since the collapse of religion, organized religion, you know, order has to be very, very pervasive and very discreet in the way that it asserts itself. And Tracey Emin is, for me, the establishment subverted. She establishes norms that have been around for decades through subversion, and she's not really saying anything new or doing anything new. She's doing new things, but in the regard that nobody has ever put a bed that's never been made into the Turner prize entry. But what she's saying by doing that is not anything new. Like, women suck. Oh, that's new. you know, it's just really, it doesn't really make me feel any better about being a woman, and I don't think it makes me feel any better about being a human being. So what is uplifting about this artist's work? I struggle to conclusion. And it's not like, I mean, coming back to the fact that she takes a huge pride in the fact that she's a loner, and she lives alone, and she doesn't have a partner, and she made a huge show of this when she appeared on Woman's Hour in an interview with Jane Garvey, where she actually very openly just said to her that don't you get off on one by yourself, and which was for me, I wasn't as acquainted with her work at the time, but if you know more about it, you realize that, oh well, obviously what else can you expect her to ask or say? That's just her. And the idea that women shouldn't not having partners and being proud with their life because they don't have partners is not a new thing or unique just to Western culture. I mean, just this week there was a scholar in Egypt, a female scholar in Egypt, whose isnad is actually the closest to the Prophet ﷺ compared to any other scholar alive. And she was a highly acclaimed scholar and a very educated woman. She never married, and she actually educated tons of people, wrote tons of books, and is a really valuable resource for us Muslims that are alive today. She doesn't need to make a big show of the fact that she goes to bed with an empty bed, though. Like, why is her approach to her own private life so different? And why is what she's left behind in terms of the betterment and improvement of a person's everyday life so much more valuable than all of Tracey Emin's work put together? That's the question worth asking, I believe. And I really think that she's overrated as an artist. I mean, I think the reason why she's so famous is because nobody else is doing art at the moment. I spoke to Muhammad Ali, the artist who just does calligraphy at the Detroit convention recently. And you know, he's such an inspiration for the way he does things, and he's an amazing marketer as well. I don't particularly like his work, and I told him that I'm not really into the whole calligraphy thing. I don't know what's so new about it. I hate graffiti, so it's not my thing. But the fact that when he entered the South Bank competition, he actually, you know, won over Tracey Emin is a pretty impressive. He won. Tracey Emin was a competing artist, and he won. His work won. And the fact that his work is so niche, the fact that it's in Arabic, the fact that it's graffiti, the fact that it's speaking to a certain demographic, but he still won, goes to show that if, you know, there were more Muslim artists out there, they could so totally just kill it, and they should be killed. So anyway, that was my rant against Tracey Emin, who's someone I don't think many people can relate to anyway. I thought I'd find something in this, but I didn't. The Artless Art of Tracey Emin. For more updates from studioSHY, subscribe to our list on our YouTube channel. This might just help you write a couple of essays for your GCSE and A-level art history / art course and other stuff. And if you want to contribute, drop me a line. Assalamu alaikum.